Teaching moves is only a part of teaching belly dance, but it is an important base skill. In the last video, I looked at selecting the moves and thinking about how you might teach them. In this video, I want to go into a little more detail. Hi, I'm Kashmir, and let's continue on with teaching tips about teaching the belly dance moves. Now, I'm assuming that you have already looked at what moves you are going to teach, and you've had to think about what methods you're going to use to do it. Like, are you going to show it? Are you going to make a noise about it? Are you going to describe it? Whatever. So let's get into a little more detail. When I first introduce a move, I always introduce it the safest and simplest variation. So even though I use my abs for a lot of my moves, when I'm actually teaching them for the first time, I'll introduce them by using the legs. So for a figure 8, we will use the legs to move the hips around. And I will actually say pretty early on that they are aiming to use their abs, but until they get the idea of that shape, and that shape will actually recruit a little bit of ab work, and it will start the abs actually working until they can actually do it with the abs and without the legs. So start with the simplest one. Don't show them the most complicated move. So again, for the shoulder shimmy, we just start with a little push. We don't start with a full-on shoulder shimmy. So build up the skill. So each week you can actually increase the difficulty. You can introduce something else or a new focus. So you might first of all start with a figure 8. In the first week they may be just looking at getting the shape and getting it smooth. The next week you may come in, you may suddenly land them up. Oh, well, by the way, that stuff we did with the slides, keeping them flat, well, I want your horizontal 8s flat as well. So don't overwhelm the students, but actually think about, and actually think in your own mind how you're going to build it, what skills you're going to build each week. You may have some people in your class still going at last week's rate, and that's just the way things happen. To reinforce it, once they have it working well and not before, you can start drilling. I'll have another video on drilling, but drilling is really important. But don't just drill. Also play with it. Put into little combinations, change the focus, turn it into a game, so they actually get different ways of coming at the same move. They need to embed it into their brain, actually, not into their body, so they actually know how to do it. And as many different ways as you can get at it, the better. One way to build strength is to travel with your move. So they've got the circles. The circles are nice, they're flat, they're gorgeous. Okay, now we're going to start traveling sideways with them. Okay. Suddenly it goes away because they've actually been cheating. So once you start moving with them, you have to bring in a lot more ab work, and you actually strengthen yourself just by moving with the move. Make sure, however, that they don't actually lose the move as they start moving. I think it's important to correct your students. I know there is a movement that says no, you should never correct your students. I guess because for me, I would not go to a class where I would actually do something wrong for 8 weeks and nobody would tell me. I would be quite upset about that. So I think you should correct your students. However, do be aware that there are some delicate souls out there who take very little correction. So don't overdo it. And even with the best student who really wants to learn, pick no more than 1 or 2 things at a time. You can look at someone and say, oh God, where do I start? Try and find the most important point and correct that. The others may then come into place afterwards. But take one, So they can focus on that one thing. As they get it, then you can introduce the next thing and then the next thing. But don't overwhelm them by telling them there's 5 things they're doing with a simple move, 5 things wrong that they're doing with a simple move. It's unfair on them, and it's just too much. Use your mirrors. I'm assuming you've got mirrors. Mirrors are really useful. I know people say, oh, they just spend their time staring at the mirror, or they can't see what they see in the mirror. If they have no mirror at all, they have no idea what they're doing. Okay, most people do not have enough body awareness to have any idea what they're doing. They need to see it in the mirror, and they need to be able to look at the mirror and see their own body. So you might actually have to teach them how to use the mirror. Okay, let's look at yourself here. See what's hip? See, this hip is actually higher than this hip, and they should be level. So that let them actually see it and actually play with it. I will sometimes use my hands. I know, again, this is a little bit of a one. I usually check with my students at the beginning of the course, and I give people a chance to say no. Don't just sort of go in there and grab them, and don't force people. Don't be rough about it. But sometimes just a gentle guidance. The most common one is our good old friend, the figure 8. The feel of it, they don't seem to get it into their bodies. So if you actually take your hands and very gently just move their hips around, that will often work. The other one that I do sometimes is I actually let them touch me. Not like that. So for example, when I'm actually moving into a move and starting to use my obliques, I will sometimes get them to put their hands on my obliques, and I'll do the move, and then I'll get them to put their own hands on their own obliques and see the difference. So they actually know what they're aiming for. They can actually, oh yes, I see that. Yeah, mine doesn't. Oh right, okay. So it helps. Sometimes hands help. Now there's lots more to teaching moves than just this, but this should get you started about thinking about how you are going to teach your moves. What order you're going to do them, and make sure they're safe, how you're going to reinforce them, how you're going to apply them to different students who have need different ways of actually seeing the move. And sometimes I actually have more advanced students actually come back to the beginners class because they actually want to work on moves. Moves are your building blocks. So you do want to actually build a good foundation, and having good, clean, automatic moves is one way of doing it. And it's fantastic to actually watch a dancer blossom and suddenly become more capable of using their own bodies. It's a wonderful thing. But we need to reinforce them. And so that's going to be our next video. Ideas about drilling moves.